So today's video came about because of a post that I actually saw when I was aimlessly scrolling on Instagram one day, and I've actually seen it a while ago, but it's been stewing in my mind. I've been meaning to film a video for a while around this because, as you know, I do like these kind of existential luxury topics peppered throughout the unboxings and more kind of vapid videos, as you'll know. It was on a carousel actually from a podcaster known as Chris Williamson. He hosts the Modern Wisdom podcast, a brilliant podcast that I love to listen to outside of all this luxury community stuff. You know, we like a bit of depth in our knowledge and in our conversation. So actually I was just following his page, and he usually posts these really nice bite-sized kind of Instagram carousels. I just so happened to come across one of his posts and it had something related to luxury and luxury goods. So, you know, the worlds have collided. He never covers anything of that nature. He covers more kind of hot topics in politics, culture, etc. So when I saw this, I was thinking, you know what, I have to comment on it, and I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on it as well. So I'm just gonna grab my trusty laptop and I'm gonna read you the posts in its entirety. Like I mentioned, they are on scrolling carousels. I will put the screen grabs somewhere in one of these corners, but I'll read it to you all and then let's dissect, because there's a lot to this. It says, women use luxury goods to scare off rivals. Interesting, right? A new study from the Journal of Consumer Research looked at why women seek out expensive luxury items. There are familiar reasons. They boost self-esteem, signal status, and express a person's identity. But the study's authors developed another theory. Women buy luxuries due to the evolutionary practice of mate guarding, making sure your mate doesn't stray. We propose that women use luxury products to signal to other women that their romantic partner is especially devoted to them. We hypothesize that women's flaunting of luxury possessions therefore functions as an intrasexual signaling system. Women use luxury products to send signals to other women in order to deter those other women from poaching their romantic partner. To prove this, the authors ran a series of tests on 700 women. They found more than half of the women believe luxury products can be assigned to other women of their partner's devotion. A woman wearing luxury items was perceived by other women as having a more devoted partner. Women willing to pursue a man in a relationship said they would be less likely to do so if they saw the man's mate wearing luxury goods. Women who felt their romantic relationship was threatened had a greater desire for luxury products. On top of that, these women wanted luxury products they could display publicly instead of privately. They were less interested in obtaining the items if they felt other women could not see them. What's interesting about this system, the authors say, is its kind of female to female code. After all, many men, including me, can't tell the difference between a $10,000 handbag and a $50 one, but many women can. The authors conclude with the following. A recent American survey found that the most coveted present for women is a gift card to a luxury store. Why would so many women want this particular gift? Men are often clueless about which products, brands, or styles women want. The gift card provides an elegant solution to this problem by essentially allowing women to choose their presents and ensure that such gifts send the right message to other women. And that's by Rob Bates. So that is the carousel in its entirety. There are other points related to other things that he's learned during the week. I haven't read those out, obviously because they do not pertain to the topic at hand. But I thought this was so interesting because, you know, I've covered in previous videos around why people buy luxury. I find it so interesting around the psychology of luxury. And just to quickly recap, those signals actually, or values rather, are 1, to denote status and wealth, which is known as the Veblen effect. 2, exclusivity or the snob effect. 3, social value or the bandwagon effect. Number 4, the emotional value or hedonic effect. And then number 5, the quality and craftsmanship, otherwise known as the perfectionism effect. Now, a lot of these you can probably denote from the names what they refer to and why it's, you know, a reason, a motivating factor for women to buy luxury, but not one of these really touched upon this very distinct angle around mate competition and even denoting, mate guarding, that this guy is mine because of this bag. And I never really thought about it like that. And I would like to think, at least in my personal situation, I mean, I buy my own luxury. I don't expect anybody to give me luxury goods, let alone a handbag, you know, which is of the several thousands, soon to be tens of thousands of pounds in price tag. However, in certain circles that I move around in or I'm aware of, now having read out this particular segment from Chris's Instagram, I reflect on the points and I do think they have an element of truth. Of course they do, because this study of the 700 women not have yielded the results to therefore churn out this particular outcome. So I think it is worth definitely dissecting this set of claims. It's all well and good to say you want the luxury goods because you just love the craftsmanship, or you just love the brand, or you know, you just like this particular style. And yes, all those things might be true, but there is definitely an underneath, below the surface level of, I guess, psychological factors that you may be acutely aware of or may not be. And I do think competition, prestige, you know, those are all things that we might not at least admit to the outside world that we care about, but luxury would not be luxury if we did not care about the status symbol of it all. And as a result of it, you know, scaring off rivals is a viable kind of reason, isn't it? So let's go in and talk about the first slide. So on here, obviously it acknowledges that buying luxury goods boosts self-esteem, signals status, and expresses a person's identity. Now, these are all covered if we just reel it back to the values that I mentioned before, the ones around signaling status and wealth. So the Veblen effect is particularly poignant here because that's around, you know, saying essentially, this is where I stand on a certain totem pole and it's pretty high up, so you should probably respect me, or, you know, put me in the ranking order basically of how you should treat somebody. And, you know, it also touches upon the exclusivity or the snob effect. You know, so by definition, you know, you want to get something that is luxury because it's not something that everybody else has. It's something very prestigious, because if everybody has it, like a Primark pullover or something, then it's by nature not luxurious, not something that everybody wants. So obviously, yes, that may boost your self-esteem or sense of self-worth, identity, if you've got something that no one else can get or it's super hard to find. And also the emotional value piece, the hedonic effect, which obviously satisfies that emotional desire. If you are someone with a bit of lower self-esteem, just gonna say it how it is, you might use luxury or pretending or feigning a certain lifestyle as a result of gaining such goods to, boost your self-esteem, make you feel like someone important. Some people do like the material. It would be a lie, I think, if we were to say, and if I was to sit here and pretend, oh, you know, I buy Chanel bags because they're really good quality and, you know, I just love the style. Where in reality, a lot of brands, especially nowadays where originality is pretty few and far between, a lot of brands are copying other brands. And therefore what distinguishes one brand to another is literally the brand itself, the heritage, the exclusivity, the prestige of it all. Then let's move on to the next slide, because he talks about the fact that women buy luxuries because of a practice known as mate guarding. Now, honestly, I find dating and competition and all that kind of stuff fascinating topics. I would love to cover those in a separate video or something, do a little series, because I have a lot to say on this particular topic. Essentially, as it pertains to this particular slide, saying that women use luxury to signal to other women their romantic partner is devoted to them. I think obviously in that statement it is very implicit, it's implied that the male would have been the person to have bought the female, the girlfriend, the wife, the luxury goods. Now, I would say with my Asian background that it is very commonplace for, especially for middle income to higher income households, that the male will buy a lot of material gifts for his significant other. It's very commonplace for, you know, the man to take the women out on dates and the man to pay for everything, even from the dating up until, you know, marriage and children. I think that is like the done thing. It's like the proper traditional thing, isn't it? And actually, when I went to Japan, it was very telling of this kind of culture, this transactional nature, perhaps you could say, of buying luxury for significant others, because the market for luxury goods there is humongous. Very expensive presents, because obviously the higher the cost, it implies the higher you are worth, I suppose. And I can totally relate that in the same way that even in Western culture, while there may not be such a prevalent, you know, male-dominated spending culture. Certainly, I think there is something to be said around the value of a present, plus a bit of effort. Obviously, I think the thought does count. Obviously, that correlates to how much that person means to you, how much they're worth potentially to you. And I think with that being said, because we still have stereotypical behaviors of the male taking the lead, spending the money, earning for the household, while that is, different in Western societies, or there are exceptions to every rule, of course, I think because males are known to be the breadwinners or to earn more money potentially than their female counterparts, it's probably something that even other women would immediately just assume that a woman's handbag, nice pair of shoes or jewelry would have been bought by the male. Now, whether that's right or wrong is something that is very subjective and personal to you all, so I'm not going to get into that debate per se. For me personally, however, I've never made it a secret that while I do get the odd very kind gift, I actually buy 95% of my own luxury goods. I'm not shy to putting in the hard graft to be able to afford the nice things, the finer things in life that I brought onto myself, so I therefore should pay for them. I personally do not look at my relationships in a transactional manner. Do I love the odd present? Yes, I do. Would I love to get a handbag? Absolutely, feel free to buy me one, but would I pressure my significant other, my boyfriend, into doing that? Absolutely not, especially if you don't have the means. I think it's very dangerous. I do believe that because of the stereotype of men buying women gifts, or largely being the breadwinner or the main income provider, the highest income provider, I believe that in an oblivious woman's perspective would be a stereotype or an assumption that she will make if she looks upon a couple and the woman is wearing a designer handbag. It's no lie, women notice these details. We just like that kind of stuff, right? I'm personally a magpie, I love shiny things. As a woman, our best foot forward is dressing and presenting ourselves in our best. And that obviously manifests itself in those nice things, the handbags, the jewelry, the clothes, the shoes. It's assumed, therefore, that if you have nice things and you're with someone, perhaps maybe walking on the street, a woman, a passerby, would assume that he's bought it for you. And actually, if that is a very high ticket bag, they'll assume, oh, wow, he really cares for her because he's just spent, how much is a Chanel bag nowadays? Almost £9,000. He spent £9,000 on her. She's a keeper. Arguably, bags are worth more than engagement rings right now. So I kind of see how that hypothesis has manifested. And I do think, social media wouldn't be a thing if we didn't care about optics, if we didn't care about our ranking and our place in the totem pole. Humans, but especially women, are social creatures. We like to be in a community, we like to know our place in the community. And because we're human and because humans are inherently problematic and selfish, we want to be at the top of that totem pole. So if we can get those goods, then that's more power to us, baby. That means we're higher up. Anyways, I've dwelled a lot on that slide, so let's move on to the next one around the actual functions, I suppose, of that signaling system. So yeah, the authors ran a series of tests on 700 women, and the findings so interesting. More than half the women believed the luxury products could be a sign of the partner's devotion. So similar exactly to what I mentioned around, if you're willing to fork out several thousands, almost tens of thousands for a particular gift, and then you go on Instagram, you're like, oh, look what hubby got me, look what my boyfriend got me. I don't personally like that, by the way. I think it's a bit cringe. This matters to humans. This is very important to know our place in the world and to get confidence. So I'm not surprised that women will want to signal to other women, back off, and also I'm way up here and you're lowly down here with your Primani bags and whatnot. But then the next one was around a woman wearing luxury items was perceived as having a more devoted partner. Now, obviously, one does not equal the other, right? They can be mutually exclusive. You could have this bag be a sign of a partner's devotion, because you don't just buy any old rando on the street a potentially £9,000 handbag, right? But on the other hand, you could also have the inverse. That man could also be unfaithful, and you could also have somebody who is just throwing material objects at you because they just are a scumbag and they want to buy you off. It doesn't mean that he's more devoted. It just might mean he has abundance of money or is doing some dodgy stuff that he's hoping can be bought with this bag or nice jewelry or something. And then just as an additional thought to the point afterwards, where it expands on the fact that women would be less likely to pursue a man if they saw the mate wearing luxury goods. You know, I do think women, in the same way that you would look at a man's finger or a woman's finger, you know, if it's the opposite gender, and you'd see if they're married. I think if you were to see a man with another woman, maybe I can see, especially if you're an onlooker and you have like 5 seconds to make a snap judgment, if they see actually a pop of Chanel, Louis Vuitton, Hermes, Van Cleef, Rolex or something, you could think, oh wow, he spent that money on that woman. That's a lot of money to devote, but also he's probably devoted to her if he's going to make that kind of risky investment, because you don't, again, do that for anybody. They might assume actually this woman is very high value, and you'd probably place yourself at a certain place, especially if you don't have those items. Then, you know, you might think the gulf was too wide for you to complete, and therefore maybe you would back off. And then following on from that, you know, women who felt their romantic relationship was threatened had a greater desire for luxury products, and they would want to display them publicly instead of privately. Now, I'm not saying this just to be like, look at me, look how great I am and whatnot, or, you know, to be the classic exception to the rule, but I am in a relationship and I am personally very happy with my relationship. I'm also a luxury YouTuber, so there is that, and my whole brand is around the luxury lifestyle, so it could be an anomaly or not. But I like to think, you know, I liked luxury before I met my partner. He knew this coming into the relationship, that this is something I enjoy. It wasn't a scope creep, you know, at his behest or something. I buy my own luxury, and I've even slowed down recently actually, because I have enough, and I don't, like I mentioned before, think that substance can be bought. I think that has to be earned and lived through with experiences. And I think, you know, if you are style but no substance, that's just terrible. I personally derive my happiness with my partner in our relationship in our shared experiences and our moments together. We travel a lot, we eat a lot, we try a lot of new things together. So I don't personally find this to be the case for myself, but I can see from an optics perspective, for those women who are self-conscious, who want to look like they're keeping up with the Joneses, that they would maybe peer pressure or encourage a friendly encouragement to their partner to get them certain goods. I do think that is pretty low in my opinion, especially as somebody who is a working woman. By no means am I saying my lifestyle is better at all. I mean, wouldn't we all like to take our foot off the pedal once in a while and get a gift or something and be treated? But I think in today's climate it's very different to the 70s or 80s, you know. And I personally think if you want something, you should go get it yourself. You are not entitled to live for free, basically. And I also buy my own luxury products because I don't want to be dependent on anybody for my lifestyle. If I'm dependent on someone else, I think I am highly reliant on them to the point of that the relationship becomes superficial, so I can get my next hit, so to speak, for my next luxury item. And I do think that is rooted in issues with self-esteem, low self-esteem. And so yes, I can absolutely envision this to be true for some women. Not all, but I imagine, especially in the Asian countries, I imagine this to be quite true. I imagine the price or exclusivity of a certain item, once it's released, you know, if you can be the first to get it or one of the only ones to get it, that obviously earns you certain points. In this society, Instagram would not be so big, Pinterest would not be so big if this were not the case. So I think that's just like a reality check for people.
Hey everyone, this is Future Mel from the editing room, and I just wanted to insert a very quick aside clip here because I wanted to fully expand on the last sentence of that particular slide, the piece where it says that women are less interested in attaining luxury items if they felt other women could not see them, because I think it would be interesting to insert a perspective that I've seen on many, I don't know if it's chat forums or just other videos where similar things have happened around females and competition. And it's kind of this perspective that women actually dress not for men, but for other women because, and as the old joke goes, if women were to dress for men, they would be totally naked. And while I think it's a bit tongue-in-cheek and yes, obviously a bit reductive, I do think there is an element of truth in that. And while I by no means, at least you're not on a conscious level, dress for other women, I personally buy things for my own pleasure and fulfillment. I collect bags and shoes and things like that because I like to play dress up. Of course, I suppose in a way, You know, if a tree falls in a forest and no one's around, does it really make a sound? If no one was around or the world was, you know, empty and it was just me, would I dress up in all these nice clothes? Probably not. And I think there is an element, to be honest, around that. But, you know, I always like to put my best foot forward. You know, I'm also at a stage, with that being said, where I don't really want to flash around everything that I have, because I'm also conscious from a safety and security perspective, which I didn't mention in this video, but is equally important. And so yes, I do see some merit in the point there around some women, potentially the insecure ones, because I do think it's a projection of your insecurities. If you feel like your man needs to get you these luxury goods to prove to other women, hey, I'm taken and he's super invested in me and spending all this money. But equally, having said that, I always think that could be dangerous because you're also putting yourself out there to be a target. So I just thought I'd insert that kind of aside there, because I think it would be an interesting perspective to hear your guys' thoughts on in the comments below. But without much further ado, I'll just get back to the video.
Well, let's move on to the next slide. And it's around this kind of, you know, female to female code, because men can't tell the difference between a $10,000 handbag and a $50 one, or converted to pounds or whatnot, but women can. This is absolutely true. I've had in many instances, where it be from the workplace to social, so many observations, even sly digs around my bags, the specific brand and whatnot, the model of it, the style, and some are, like I mentioned, nice observations, comments like, oh, that's a really nice Chanel handbag or whatnot, and then other ones are like, oh, you have that bag? It's probably from a place of envy and jealousy, which, you know, with the aforementioned slide, if you are someone with low self-esteem, that could be the effect that you're going for, right? It's like, oh, look, they know this bag and they don't have it and I do. So I do definitely think this woman to women code is an accurate reflection of what is currently happening. I do think it is very prevalent on Instagram. Social media is a virus when it comes to this kind of stuff. So it just fans the flames, and especially now in an information age where everything is available at the, you know, tap of your finger. I think that women would very quickly be able to find out, even if they didn't know the model, very quickly. They would have the bare bones of information compared to a man. I think the gulf between a $10,000 handbag and $50 one is quite vast enough that I think men could tell if it's a Primani bag or if it is an Hermes bag, especially if it is a very popularized silhouette and maybe they've been roped in to watch a few rom-coms or something in their time. I do know a lot of men, weirdly enough, who have watched Legally Blonde. I mean, my boyfriend, he never even knew of a single luxury brand, I don't think, until we met. And he's definitely gotten better at it, but he's still got a long way to go. He might get the odd man who does know their designer stuff, but we are talking about the rules and not the exceptions here. So I do think women are a lot more astute, and they are definitely a lot more FBI, I would say, around brands and the prestige around them. Whereas a man's kind of North Star is quite reductively, you know, their position or ranking at work, their physique perhaps, the amount of money that they make, or their celebrity or their power status. For women, I think it's, you know, because of the traditional kind of stereotype of being the childbearer, the caregiver, that it's the kind of value, the quality of man that you can bring home. And that is going to be something that is very reliant on how you look, how you dress, the objects and the shiny things that you own, and the price or value of which will denote how valued your significant other thinks that you are. So I do think it is absolutely a woman to woman code, female to female code. Then on to the final point around the most coveted present for women is a gift card to a luxury store. Yes, I do think it basically kills two birds with one stone, because if you struggle to find your significant other a present, and if she goes on and on about luxury goods, then I think it obviously tackles that particular dilemma for men. And, you know, it also shows a certain value ascribed. It's not a iTunes gift card, is it, for £10? It may be hundreds of pounds. So I do think there is merit also to that point. That's not my relationship, I am very pleased to say. If I want nice shiny things, I'll buy them myself. And I do have the means to earn significant enough coin to afford these luxuries myself. I am a proud Rolex owner. I bought it myself, I'm proud to say that. If other people want to think that my boyfriend bought it, fine, they can do. Obviously, I cannot control other people's thoughts and feelings, but Personally, I don't really assume either, unless I've been explicitly told that, you know, if I saw a couple in front of me, that the man bought all the luxury goods. I mean, we're in a modern world, we're in the Western world, so I tend to give a little bit more leeway with that context. In Asia, probably not. I would assume the men will have bought it for their significant others, just culturally. But I like to at least give people the benefit of the doubt, because in the modern world, you can't afford your own luxuries. And to me, at least, I don't think relationships should be transactional with money. They should be, you know, through experiences and chemistry and the fun that you have together. And trust me, I know couples that on the surface may present that they have so much money and wealth, and under the surface, they are really struggling. And they are posting these great gifts and whatnot because they want to keep up appearances. They want to maintain the optics. And based on these points that Chris has reeled off in these slides, it is true and it's backed up by statistics. So I see that this has a lot of depth to it. I see that we as a species, mankind, we've moved on quite a lot, but we're still very much the same in many ways. And I think, you know, it's a flexing point, let's not lie, for women to receive luxury goods that they did not buy, because that means that you are valuable enough that someone else is willing to spend their coin to invest in you, because you're an investment at the end of the day, is the takeaway. So I will leave this video here, as I've done quite a bit of talking. I would love to know, in that vein, your thoughts down below. Do you think women buy luxury goods to mate guard and to scare off rivals? If you enjoy these kind of videos, give it a thumbs up, let me know down below, and I will be sure to do many, many more like it. But as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next one.